Everyone loves to hate EA. I love to hate EA too. It's okay, you're among friends here. But sometimes we get pieces of news that are pretty damn cool and deserve to be discussed just as much as any scandal. So without further ado, let's talk about Jedi Fallen Order. Right off the bat is the most critical piece of information, which honestly I'm taking with a grain of salt, but it's still good to hear. It has now been confirmed multiple different times that Jedi Fallen Order will not have loot boxes and will also not have any microtransactions. Now, at this point, saying a game won't have this or that or the other thing is kind of hollow because half the time major publishers and developers say, no way, and then a month or two later they just add it in anyways. The most recent example of this is probably Fallout 76, where Bethesda confirmed, a bunch of different times that there would be no gameplay impacting microtransactions at all, and now there's gameplay impacting microtransactions in the Atomic Shop. So these companies lie. They lie a lot. But EA really needs to stop fucking up, and have started to brand this game early and aggressively as a non-multiplayer, narrative-driven game that has no loot boxes and zero microtransactions. They have also promoted this sort of dual personality marketing that adopts lines like embrace the past as a kind of call out to how EA just fucks up all the time and does shit no one likes, and they are now seemingly trying to launch a game that is back on track with what gamers will accept and appreciate. I'm always an advocate of skepticism regarding larger publishers, to be sure, but this has me a little bit hopeful because starting this early and pushing this hard to promote a game that breaks their current trends is a good sign. I could harp on the uncertainty of no microtransaction promises for quite a while, but to draw a few connections here, the idea of no microtransaction systems at all has quite a few gameplay implications if they actually stick to it. We can harken back to games like Shadow of War, a similar single-player, story-driven third-person title, but Shadow of War had microtransactions and as a result, constructed a throttling system to promote those services. For those that are not aware, throttling is a term that pertains to altering rewards, pacing, or progression in a devious and often unnoticed way so as to try and subliminally, or even blatantly in some titles, provoke players into spending more money. It can truly destroy the integrity of a game, and in the case of Shadow of War, the final cutscene and battle was gated behind a massively inflated artificial grind wall that tried to drive up the sale of their premium items. It was blatant, obvious, and really, really shitty. Other single-player games have done the exact same thing. Slightly less aggressive was Assassin's Creed Odyssey, where the game clearly altered experience gain as a result of selling a permanent 50% boost in the microtransaction shop. Fortunately for Ubisoft, the tuning on the Assassin's Creed throttling was far less obvious and certainly less invasive, so it did not lead to very much backlash. But to bring it back around, Jedi Fallen Order having no microtransactions whatsoever, if they actually hold true to their word, means there is no reason at all to throttle anything, and the game can actually be balanced around the typical player experience without these hidden motives. Another point worth noting is the game's developer. The developers behind Jedi Fallen Order are none other than Respawn Entertainment. Respawn is fresh off of a huge success in the form of Apex Legends, and the biggest positive by far is that they are not bound by EA into using the Frostbite engine for Jedi Fallen Order. We've recently learned in painfully clear detail just how shit Frostbite is. EA forces many development studios to use it exclusively, but no one knows how to do so properly, and it catastrophically cripples some games. A huge number of the issues that Anthem faced were a direct result of the Frostbite engine. The problems, of course, extend well beyond that, but forcing BioWare to use an engine that does not meet their needs, and also is not a familiar tool with which any of their artists have true expertise, owing to its Frankenstein composite nature, is a surefire way to exacerbate existing flaws, which is exactly what happened. Jedi Fallen Order has been confirmed to be built on the Unreal Engine, which comes courtesy of a community manager on Reddit, and knowing this early that the game will not suffer from the same sort of fundamental flaws that Anthem did as a result of being corralled into using an unfit development tool, yes, I am very happy about that. Another confirmation we have based on the recent developer panel is that the game will not be stealth-based. It was stated at one point that theoretically one could skirt around enemy NPCs and not aggro them, but the game is not a stealth game and will not have stealth mechanics. The goal is to live out the power fantasy of lightsaber combat and force powers. Personally, that's fine, I don't care at all, but for anyone hoping to experience a Star Wars-esque Assassin's Creed, it looks like that's not in the cards. The game is set to release on November 15th of this year, and various other details were discussed regarding enemy archetypes, setting, lore, etc., etc. To summarize, the game takes place in the aftermath of Order 66, which is the iconic command given to execute all Jedi, and unique enemies called Purge Troopers are featured, whose job it is to hunt down the remaining Jedi over the course of the game. The players will be accompanied by a droid companion, pretty standard there. Pretty much every Jedi or major character in the Star Wars universe always has like a cute little droid or whatever, and they will be tasked with surviving in the forever changed Star Wars universe after the fateful command is given. By the way, yes, the background footage is just the trailer on a loop. It's lazy, I know, but there is literally nothing else that makes a lot of sense to put there other than different Star Wars games, and even then it would be confusing for a lot of people, so it's just the trailer. I'm sorry. But still, even with the short trailer, there are some details to extrapolate, like, for instance, the clear integration of wall running. It's a respawn standard at this point, and combined with the already clear emphasis on fast-paced, power fantasy-driven combat, it makes sense, but seeing it in the trailer was pretty cool, and I hope it does make it into the game in a dynamic way. Though, to be brutally frank here, who the fuck knows anymore, because trailers slap on fake claims of authenticity and lie to us all the time. So I hope this trailer ends up not being a total scam, I guess, but it's hard to take it too seriously. Some various leaks on Reddit have claimed that the game will feature combat akin to Dark Souls, Bloodborne, or Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. I can't speak to the 100% authenticity of all of these rumors, but the official released description for the game's combat reads as the following. Jedi Fallen Order delivers the fantasy of becoming a Jedi through its innovative lightsaber combat system. Striking, parrying, dodging, partnered with a suite of powerful force abilities you'll need to leverage to overcome obstacles that stand in your way. This combat system is intuitive to pick up, but takes training and practice to fully master its nuances as you gain new powers and abilities along your adventure. That sounds exactly like Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. Now, to add in a bunch of my own opinion here, that sounds cool and I would probably really like it. But if it actually is on par with Sekiro in terms of difficulty specifically, that's a really shitty decision. Star Wars is a concept that caters to a massive audience, and that audience is not even close to being comprised of a majority hardcore gaming demographic who would be receptive to that level of difficulty and overall game construction. So, I don't know. It sounds great, but I can't picture it being too similar, or if it is, it will certainly have different settings to ease the frustration and be built in a much more accessible way than Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. The official description goes on to say, while mastering your abilities, players will engage in cinematically charged lightsaber and force combat designed to deliver the kind of intense Star Wars lightsaber battles as seen in the films. Players will need to approach enemies strategically, sizing up strengths and weaknesses while cleverly utilizing your Jedi training to overcome your opponents and solve the mysteries that lay in your path. Again, this sounds like Dark Souls or Sekiro or Bloodborne, and who knows, maybe it's Jedi Soulsborne. I'm not really sure. Personally, I'd be over the moon if it was. That sounds amazing, but I can easily recognize that the Dark Souls universe and the Star Wars universe have really different audiences. So again, I like what I hear. I want to know more, but I'm a little confused. The developers said friendly but hard to master, so hopefully that ends up being well executed. Jedi Fallen Order is so far advertised as a single-player game with no multiplayer at all that will not have microtransactions or loot boxes in any capacity. And somehow that is already being cheered loudly. I get it, it's a good thing to hear, but for one, that could literally change any second. We have no actionable defense against them just up and deciding to do it differently and going back on their word. And two, that's not actually that big of a fucking deal. Like, how is a game that should be considered normal already being heralded as revolutionary by some outlets and creators just for returning to a once standard industry format? I'm a bit excited that they are projecting this dual marketing technique and sort of painting it as a redemption tale for both your character in-game and EA themselves. At least that's kind of what it feels like. But I'm more optimistic knowing that it's not on the Frostbite engine and that Respawn is at the helm. It seems like a game that has the right framework of potential, but it's too early to know anything definitive at all. Though, to be fair, the right framework for potential is a little less common than it should be nowadays. I like what I see, and I like what I hear. I'm also very interested to know more, and will be watching Jedi Fallen Order very closely because a proper single-player Star Wars game, void of nearly all the things that I despise in the industry, if it's true and it's good, I'm all in. But still, never fall prey to the fanboy fanaticism. It's a fucking disease at this point. And don't pre-order either, because that's just begging to get burned. That's it though. Enough for today. Some very good signs that are worth discussing, but let's not lose our heads. If you want to support the channel, check out the links down below. There are various different communities, merchandise, and much more, but I'll cut it there and I'll stop rambling. Thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.